have a record of who is here, and we can contact you in future if you have questions. So with that being said, again, I'm Bill Morgan. I'll pass it over to my colleague from Egan, Representative Masin.
Good morning, and thank you again so much for coming. I know it's really cold out there, so I really, really appreciate your attention here. I represent 51A, which is most of Egan, that is west of 35E, all of northern Burnsville, all the way to Savage, and then a little bit of precinct 6, 9, and 10 that come around County Road 11. And I just want to give you a heads up as to what we've been doing in the legislature so far. We started on January 8th officially, and most of our committees, we've just been doing overviews of the various agencies that our committees oversee. I think at least one of mine is now done with the overviews, and then, as you probably know, the governor came out with his budget this week, and then really until we get the forecast after February, that's when we really start getting into the budget. But today, we just want to hear your feedback. And I'd like to introduce Senator Carlson from 51.
Good morning and welcome to you all. How are we doing on audio here? Can you hear us okay? I represent Senate District 51, which is part of Burnsville, and it starts at about Parkwood. And north of Highway 13, all of the area that's north of Highway 13 from Egan to Burnsville. And then most of Egan south of Lone Oak Road. That's the new Senate District 51. And I'm happy to be here, and also I really appreciate Representative Morgan for arranging this and also including all of us and inviting all of you. This is a good opportunity for us to get feedback from you. As the representative said, we've just gotten the budget this week, so there's a lot of questions that we have on it as well as we know that you probably have on it. I personally am very happy with the budget in that it, for the first time, gives us a solution. It's a solution to our structural imbalance that we have been living with for many years. And so as such, there are things that I probably don't like in it. In fact, I know there are things that I don't like in it. But I am required, as is anyone else required, to put in a substitution. If there's something you think should not be in there, I'd like to hear what we're going to replace it with. And again, the objective is that we're not going to have these kinds of tricks, gimmicks, and borrowing anymore. This is a good budget, and I'm hoping that you will support us to try to figure out how to make it even better. So, as with that, and I know we have some elected officials in the elected or former elected in the audience here, and I'm going to ask Will if you recognize anyone that you introduce them. I see that we have former Representative Diane Anderson. You want to wave your hand here somewhere? There you are. And you have the school board chair, Sandy Sweet, right up in front here. And pardon me if I miss anyone else, we have a former school board member, Vicki Roy, in the back there. Anyone else that you missed?
Dan McElroy is
Dan? I don't, oh, there you are, Dan. I thought I saw you behind. Dan McElroy, former mayor and I'm not sure, you've had so many titles now, commissioner, everything, right up, and now he's actually more important because he's out of it.
My favorite title is Dan.
Dan.
Burnsville City Council member Bill Coughlin is back there. Bill is here, and who else are we missing that we can't see right now? The lights are so bright up here.
Figured.
Yes. All right. Thank you. And we also want to thank all the volunteers who came out today, who were out doing sign-up in the hallway and helped make this possible. We could not have done this alone, so we really appreciate all of you who helped make it possible to have this town hall meeting for the citizens of Burnsville and surrounding communities. A couple of things I'd like to point out. Obviously, the budget is very complex. We're very lucky to have folks like Bill and a lot of people like Bill down there at the legislature to help us out. But what we mostly need now as we begin to move forward along the timeline that Bill talked about is your feedback. We are looking to hear from you. This is the start of that conversation we want to have with you. So please don't think that this is one time and, hey, we're done, thanks for your help, we'll go get to work. We need to continue to hear from you throughout the session. So today is our first opportunity to do that. And with that being said, we'd like to start hearing from some of the questions that have been compiled. Betty, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Questions are still being collected from the audience. Your name does not need to be on the questionnaire. And once again, these questions will be given to the candidates after the presentations. In case they do not have time, they will respond on their website. Okay, the first question is, what spending are you willing to cut? The chart shows significant spending increases over the next 4 years. And this is addressed to all candidates, and we will start with Senator Jim Carlson.
And that's kind of an open-ended question in that I think you've seen that spending is not an easy thing to cut because a lot of it is already committed. We already have about 80% of the budget is an already committed amount. Now, the governor has cut back on some spending already in his budget, and I believe he has something like $290 million that he's taken out of it. And the big thing that we want to do is we want to make government more efficient. I think that's the first thing that we're going to look at is making it more efficient. The cutting of the spending is, if I would tell you let's say an account that we would cut right now, it would be somebody's ox would be gored. And I guess that's what we have to do is we have to look at all possible areas. And from my way of thinking, we have to make sure that government is more efficient. And if we are looking at a place where maybe we can get some more, there's a place where we do spending that we should be getting contributions, and that is in our prison systems. We need to get people out of prison. We need to get people their medical care so that they're back in the workforce. And that's not a matter of cutting spending, it's a matter of putting investments into something that we get back almost right away.
Sandra Masin.
Thank you. As I mentioned, we're really at the very beginning of the process. So my thought is we need to focus on the priorities first. And it is, to me, normally it is going to be education. Healthcare is definitely a major part of our budget, as you already saw. And transportation is critical to every form of our life. So that's where I see most. Those are the things that I want to increase and preserve. But at this time, it's really too early, and that's kind of what we're looking for: is what are you most willing to cut? And bottom line is, I want us to have, when we're done, we're going to have a budget that is going to be stable and that is going to cut having a crisis every 2 years.
Representative Morgan.
Thank you. As Mr. Marks pointed out, almost 95% of our budget is in 5 areas: health and human services, K-12 education, higher education, property tax relief, and public safety. That's almost 95% of the budget. So to find significant cuts, we're going to have to look carefully in those areas. I agree with my colleagues. We have to look at inefficiencies. We have to look at places where spending in the past maybe has not done the job that it was intended to do. And that's what we're going to be spending the next couple of months doing down at the legislature. We're going to be having committee hearings and fiscal committees to look at doing things better, more effectively, more efficiently, so that taxpayers can feel that they get better value for their tax dollars. So that's what we'll be doing. We have to look at every area of the budget for inefficient spending. And looking forward to doing that.
Okay, the next question here is addressed to Bill Marks. What is the historical track record on forecast versus actual? Seems like we are buying pretty major changes on possibilities, not facts.
Well, as far as the historical trends, there's actually a publication on our website that looks at variation in the forecast, but it tends to depend on which direction the economy is going. Things are, the last 3 budget forecasts we've had have been better. Each one, or things have improved in that forecast compared to the last forecast. And during that time, the economy's been gradually getting a little bit better. A few years back, when the economy was getting worse, each forecast got worse. It depends a lot on what's going on in the economy, and the economy tends to react faster than we can forecast. The Global Insights Incorporated, this national company that the state uses, when they put their forecast together, they do a baseline forecast and they give it a probability. Then they do a more optimistic forecast and they give it a probability, and then they do a more pessimistic forecast and give it a probability. In November, the baseline forecast was 60% probability, the optimistic one 20%, and the pessimistic one 20%. So they're hedging a lot too. And the forecasts are never going to be right. And when you're dealing with a $35 billion biennial budget, to be off $1 billion is not actually that big of a percentage, but it makes a big difference in what the legislature and the governor have to do in putting together a budget. So yes, they always vary.
Thank you. Sandy, do you like to comment?
In addition to that, the state we've had an excellent state economist, demographer, and they're the ones that help put together this forecast. Over the years, they've also made recommendations. And as I recall, if the legislature and the governor had followed through on some of those recommendations, perhaps we might be in a better shape. So just know that there's a lot of flexibility in what the recommendations are initially and what ends up going through or being voted.